haven't filmed for this project in just 3 days. It already seems like it's been an eternity, just because of other psychic, emotional worlds that one can walk into, and how time never quite seems to be linear. But today is the day of the Interfaith dinner that I'll be going to in a little while. I just picked up some cash to be able to contribute to that dinner in a suggested amount. I wanted to go to have good conversation, to feel openly, to be fair and like operate within the real spirit of the Interfaith conference. At the same time, I'm seeking employment in such a world, and I'm hoping I can do this in a way that remains within the spirit of the conference, as if I'm going there with no financial worries. In a certain sense, I am and I'm not. But continuing this secret purpose. I have much more to talk about. I'm going to add a few things to previous videos to add more context. Some of the videos have good enough content to just release, and other ones I do want to add some extra media to in Final Cut before they go up. But today is the day of the Interfaith dinner. I missed my stop on the bus. It is an absolutely beautifully horrid, rainy and gross day in a pretty beat up looking neighborhood. I'm going to Habitat for Humanity. This is like north of River West. I don't know how much time I've spent here in my life. Not much, I don't think. That this is the right location, because I don't see how anything could be held here, but I've checked it like 10 times, including just a minute ago, and maybe this is it.
Oh, restrooms are straight out there, go left, go right.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Hi there.
Hi,
I'm Christy.
Dandon.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
JC is coming with the list, and he has like table assignments. But feel free to have a seat, and actually, I suppose we could start just eating if the food is ready. We should wait. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll
Somebody
wait.
should. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if you want to go ahead, the name tags are on the table.
I think it stopped. My voice recorder stopped recording in the middle of that. And yeah, I don't know. I think there was something about it where they were promoting vaccination in the middle of it, and I just lost good faith, lost faith that it was a God thing, even though individuals in it were about some God thing. About how I put so many relationships first in my life that kind of don't have anything to do with me. Most of them don't have anything to do with me, and these 7 relationships that I've called the 7 maidens, and I've called myself Rohini, and I followed the 7 maidens, and they, I don't know, what have I done for me? And I thought at one time what I was doing for me was to follow them, but there's a lot that's just not, it's still not satisfactory, and I don't know if keeping the faith on that is anything but loyalty to a delusion of my own mind. Reflecting on the Interfaith congregation, it's not called congregation, I can't remember the name. Reflecting on the Interfaith conference of Greater Milwaukee Amazing Faiths dinner last night. Overall, I'm kind of disappointed in the leadership and the organization of that meeting, thinking about what their real agenda was. Maybe the Habitat for Humanity part of it is good, but the agenda is to use proceeds from that and that itself to promote mRNA vaccines, which I think is exploitative of people of all faiths, people of Christian faith, Muslim faith, Jewish faith, Hindu faith, everybody that was there. I really think it's a disservice to the community for pharmaceutical companies to be involved in doing that. I think it's pure evil that they are continuing to co-opt not only singular faiths but all faiths at once in order to promote that agenda. That being said, there were really interesting people there, really sensitive people, really empathic people, and I think that makes it doubly bad that the organizers are using sensitive, empathic people and their religious beliefs to push an agenda that is very anti-God. And that part of it I can't ignore. That's probably my main message about it. Shame on them. Shame on them. They should be brought low for what they're doing. And that being said, it was really interesting to see people on their different faith paths from one to another, and people who were American Christian growing up becoming more close to Hindu faiths, and people who were Hindu growing up becoming closer to American Christian faiths. And there's, I think, a lot of innocent-minded people there, very interested in breaking free of religious hierarchies that were not spiritual, just as I am concerned about the entire thing being used by a hierarchy that's not good. Yeah, that's the thing I can't get over. I know this organization probably facilitates a lot of really important interfaith, interspiritual communication. They're based in like these amazing faith dinners. Right? They started in Houston, Texas, not an incredibly long time ago, and they're done all over the country now, including in Greater Milwaukee. It seems that they do one once a month, or they're doing one once a month here in Q4 of 2023. We're approaching Q4. But yeah, shame on the people taking advantage of it for reasons that have little to do with God, if not opposing God. I think it's up to people of all faiths to throw these people out and persecute them, throw these people out and prosecute them. Because they are taking the most sacred things and defaming them. The most important things, some of the most valuable things about humanity, and they are using them for very dark purposes. You hear about people who have been believers in God since a very young age. One person even stated that they were 5 years old, and the kind of faith that they had, faith or gnosis or knowledge of God, belief in God that they had at 5 years old, that's where they're trying to get back to. That really moved me to hear. And then there was a woman afterward who told me I look like a tomte goomer. Try to look this word up. Tomte is some sort of elf or gnome within Scandinavian tradition. She invited me to some kind of Swedish specific ceremony or celebration or get together or something. And at first I thought I really don't want to do this, and I don't want to add more of such a thing onto my schedule. However, it might be interesting the more I think about it. The way she described it was talking about celebrating Midsummer and Lunasa, I think, and I asked her if it was neo-pagan, and she hesitated, and then she didn't say yes, but I would say isomorphically it's very neo-pagan, but specifically Scandinavian, and that's something I don't know. I'm about 60% Scandinavian genetically, as far as I know. So it would be interesting to get in touch with some of that should it be possible to document such a thing? Recently studied things about the Varangian Vikings and what the Scandinavians were doing in around the year 1000. And the Scandinavians are like great mercenaries, and there'd be so many mercenaries coming out of Scandinavia, Sweden in general, or Sweden and Scandinavia in general, who there was a new law passed that individuals could not receive a family inheritance if they were outside of Sweden, because there were so many people leaving Sweden. They wanted to keep some people inside. But in the year 1000, Scandinavians, Vikings, were mercenaries in London. They were mercenaries in the Byzantine Empire. They were the personal bodyguard for Byzantine emperors. And they were also establishing Kiev on Rus. They were establishing the city of Kiev, which Russia and Ukraine are now fighting over, and have been for a few years, super hard, and about a decade harder. But the history of it is full of conflict. But it was established by the Vikings, by a guy named Rurik, and actually the word Rus, which Russia comes from, and Belarus and all that Rus over there, was once a nickname for Scandinavia. So it's not even a Slavic word or place name to begin with. And I told that to this woman whose name is Cookie Anderson, and she told me, also in the 4th century, the Vikings were corralling horses and selling them to the Roman Empire in the 4th century, which is, right after Christianity became the official religion of the Roman Empire, and the Roman Empire had that kind of transformation. But it was still an empire and still conquering new lands. And it's really amazing how the Scandinavians were involved in so much empire building. Not their own empires, but they were facilitating horses, and they were acting as mercenaries and personal bodyguards, personal private guard for other emperors. And so it makes me think about where I come from genetically and the kind of people that I come from and who we are. And it's like, there's kind of an encouragement to be conscious of other people's empires that are being built, because there is certain very important jobs that can be done within them. I don't know, maybe that's what my ancestors would have done. Strange to think about, and something I've only thought about probably in the past year or less, despite being as Scandinavian as I've been my entire life. I've had a very pluralistic view of religions and denominations within religions, and perhaps one religion that I haven't learned tolerance for yet is what Gigi Young calls the genetic modification cult, who is operating in these interfaith organizations to aggregate and corral them all together for their own purposes. They're a very popular cult today, not always recognized as one, but they're one faction of scientism. And Gigi Young presents this as an outgrowth of esoteric Nazism, and it certainly does grow out of the eugenics movements that were present all over the world in the early 1900s, late 1800s, as New World Conquest happened with the 8 Nations Alliance that is today more or less G8, in order to surround the Qing dynasty of China and change the governance there, which they did. And the old governors of that place have not returned to power in any significant sense. These eugenics movements now very much associated with Nazi Germany because they pushed them the most. They had the most racist interpretation present in Hitler's moves across Europe and Eurasia and his further plans for the rest of the world. But there were movements like that in the United States and many other places, and there still are. The genetic modification cult exists today and has an extreme amount of power. I would say they're more powerful than the Nazis were. And they're very apt sorcerers, and that there's still tons of people who don't even realize that that's what's going on, or that they've been converted. Because conversion these days is perhaps a little bit different. They don't have to change your credo. Ultimately, they do change your credo. They change your belief, and they get you to do certain rituals. One is to change your genetics. So I guess it's hard for me to be inclusive of this specific religion, this specific cult, because they're actively attacking all other religions. That there are members, key members within the organization of the Interfaith Conference of Greater Milwaukee, who not only have no plan to help any of the religions that they're calling amazing faiths, but they do have plans to destroy them all at once. How proudly standing behind, and maybe it's because the indoctrination, especially amongst older people, baby boomers perhaps in particular, or older, that indoctrination is not worn off. But what is being proposed with the safety and efficacy of some of these mRNA technologies for what they're stated to do at this point is just pure Lysenkoism. It is promoting on a state level, or on an even greater level, something that really doesn't work. It's a big plan, but if it's working for something, it's not working for what it says it's working for. Am I projecting? Worship of technology or specific media, specific mediums that arise within technology is not a new thing. When people worship the Bible, because it might be argued that some Christians worship the Bible rather than God, or rather than the experience of God, or some other kind of experience. Sola scriptura kind of people. Code is law. Or in Sikhism, the last guru, after a succession of human gurus, becoming the book Guru Granth Sahib. Things like that. Shouldn't be surprised if this keeps going with more advanced technologies. But yeah, it's still pretty hard to see what happens when human beings are so drastically changed genetically on purpose by people who lead them in telling them it's something else. I think we had this, you know, the genetic modification cult already did this with the Jews, telling them they are going into the shower. There are probably upsides to this kind of technology, just as there are upsides to finding out how powerful the nuclear bombs were that hit Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It's still not very easy to talk about. And I don't know if it will kill my ability to even work on the algorithm within YouTube to talk about things like this. And it's sort of like the old adage, don't talk about politics or religion. This is both. And this is both, not just in a way that is like a conflict between two sides. It's something that disrupts and transforms the entire thing. Because conversion used to have some kind of word that you can program people with, but now it can be done in an even crazier manner. It can be done at the molecular, genetic, DNA, RNA level. I'd be surprised to find such a thing at an Interfaith Congress, because who are those who try to aggregate in an organization different faiths into one if they're not also interested in changing religion as it is? There might be this kind of good feeling that is facilitating peace and communication amongst different religions, and I suppose it does do that. But what is the new thing that we can't talk about that the organization of it is doing? Also, the entire organization is set up to have people, a bunch of people from different faiths volunteer, while the organization and its organizers are funded and paid. Nobody else is. They don't pay the Christians, they don't pay the Jews, they don't pay the Hindus, they don't pay the Buddhists, they don't pay the Muslims. They pay themselves.